Previously, we embarked on a historical journey, tracing the roots of the Israel-Palestine conflict. We ventured back in time to the ancient civilizations that first inhabited this land, exploring the intricate tapestry of cultures and empires that have left their mark on this region. We navigated through the era of Roman rule, witnessing the birth of the Jewish diaspora, and the shaping of the land we now know as Israel and Palestine. We then journeyed forward to the Islamic conquest, a period that profoundly influenced the religious and cultural landscape and eventually led to the Ottoman rule. Our exploration concluded with the British Mandate, a critical juncture in history that set the stage for the conflicts of the 20th century. Now let's delve into the heart of the 20th century, where the seeds of the current conflict were sown. The year is 1917, and the British government issues a document known as the Balfour Declaration. A little over 100 years ago, in the midst of World War I, Britain made a promise that would forever change the landscape of the Middle East. The Balfour Declaration, a brief letter penned by Foreign Secretary Arthur Balfour to Lord Rothschild, a leader of the British Jewish community, expressed the British government's favour towards the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. This promise, however, was not as straightforward as it seemed. At the time, Palestine was home to a significant Arab majority who viewed this influx of Jewish immigrants with growing concern. The British, who had just seized control of Palestine from the Ottoman Empire, were caught in the middle of these rising tensions. The Balfour Declaration was soon followed by the British Mandate of Palestine, a period of British rule that lasted from 1920 to 1948. During this time, the British administration encouraged Jewish immigration to Palestine, leading to a significant increase in the Jewish population. This influx was not without its complications. With every ship that docked at the ports of Haifa and Jaffa, bringing with it Jewish immigrants fleeing persecution in Europe, the demographic balance of Palestine began to shift. This shift sparked a growing unrest between the Jewish immigrants and the Arab population, who felt their land and rights were being encroached upon. Throughout the 1920s and 1930s, tensions escalated, culminating in periods of violent conflict. Both sides harbored deep-seated feelings of mistrust and resentment, further fueling the conflict. The British, despite their initial promise, were unable to maintain balance and peace in the region. As the clouds of World War II began to gather, the situation in Palestine became increasingly volatile. The British Mandate, initially seen as a solution, had instead become a catalyst for conflict. This period of history set the stage for a clash of national identities that continues to this day. As World War II loomed, these tensions would be exacerbated, setting the stage for the creation of Israel. Scene script: World War II and the Holocaust would dramatically shift the global attitude towards the Jewish people. In the throes of war, the systematic extermination of 6 million Jews, known as the Holocaust, caused an international outcry. This horrific genocide brought the plight of the Jewish people into sharp focus, prompting a wave of sympathy from the international community. In the aftermath of the war, Jewish survivors found themselves displaced, homeless, and in search of a safe haven. Many sought refuge in Palestine, a land historically significant to the Jewish people, and a place they could call home. This mass migration was facilitated by numerous Zionist movements who, for decades, had been advocating for a Jewish homeland. The Zionist movements were not a new phenomenon. Their roots can be traced back to the late 19th century when Jews faced increasing persecution in Europe. These movements gained momentum during the interwar period, and with the horrors of the Holocaust, their cause garnered global attention. In response to this growing crisis and the pressure exerted by Zionist movements, the United Nations proposed a plan in 1947. This plan, known as the UN Partition Plan for Palestine, proposed the creation of two independent states, one Arab and one Jewish, with Jerusalem under international administration. On May 14, 1948, the Jewish Agency, led by David Ben-Gurion, declared the establishment of the State of Israel. This momentous event marked the birth of a national homeland for Jews, a beacon of hope for a community scarred by centuries of persecution and recent horrors of the Holocaust. Yet the creation of Israel was not universally accepted. It sparked tensions with the Arab nations who rejected the UN partition plan, leading to the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. This was just the beginning of a long and complex history of conflict in the region. The creation of Israel would ignite a series of wars, forever changing the landscape of the Middle East. With Israel's birth, a series of conflicts known as the Arab-Israeli Wars erupted. These wars were a series of political and military confrontations between Israel and various Arab states and Palestinian groups, which started in the mid-20th century. The first of these wars occurred immediately after Israel declared independence in 1948. Known as the War of Independence or the Arab-Israeli War, it was fought by Israel against a military coalition of Arab states over the control of Palestine. This war resulted in an Israeli victory, leading to the establishment of the State of Israel. However, this was merely the beginning. A series of wars would follow, including the Suez Crisis in 1956, the Six-Day War in 1967, and the Yom Kippur War in 1973. Each of these conflicts had its own causes and consequences, but a common thread was the struggle over territory and the rights of Palestinian refugees. The Palestinian refugee crisis is another crucial aspect of this complex history. Following the 1948 Arab-Israeli War, a significant number of Palestinians were either expelled from their homes or fled during the conflict. This led to the creation of a vast Palestinian diaspora, many of whom still live in refugee camps today. The aftermath of these wars also saw a significant shift in territorial control. Israel gained control over the West Bank, Gaza Strip and East Jerusalem, following the Six-Day War in 1967. This territorial expansion gave rise to the contentious issue of settlements, which continues to be a major source of conflict today. In essence, the Arab-Israeli wars and the Palestinian refugee crisis have left a lasting impact on the region, shaping the political and social landscape in ways that are still felt today. They have given rise to a number of contentious issues, including territorial disputes, the right to self-determination, and the quest for peace. These wars would lead to a significant shift in territorial control, giving rise to the contentious issue of settlements. Following the wars, Israel began establishing settlements in the West Bank and Gaza Strip. This marked the beginning of a new chapter in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. These settlements were communities built by Israel on lands captured during the Six-Day War of 1967. Primarily, they were established in the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the Gaza Strip. Over time, these settlements grew in number and size, housing hundreds of thousands of Israeli citizens. However, the international community largely views these settlements as illegal. According to the Fourth Geneva Convention, an occupying power is prohibited from transferring its own civilian population into the territory it occupies. Despite this, Israel disputes the applicability of this law to the West Bank and Gaza Strip. The establishment of these settlements has had a significant impact on the peace process. They are often seen as a major obstacle to the establishment of a viable Palestinian state due to the fragmentation of territory they cause. This has led to increased tension and hostility between the two parties. In response to these developments, Palestinians have launched two major uprisings, or intifadas. The first intifada began in 1987, characterized by civil disobedience, general strikes, and boycotts. The second intifada, which started in 2000, was marked by a significant increase in violence, with suicide bombings and military operations becoming commonplace. These intifadas have brought international attention to the plight of the Palestinians, but they've also resulted in a tragic loss of life on both sides. They've further deepened the divide between Israelis and Palestinians, making the path to peace even more challenging. The settlements and intifadas have shaped the landscape of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. They've not only altered the physical geography of the region, but also the political and emotional terrain of its people. The echoes of these events are still felt today, as they continue to influence the decisions and actions of both parties. These events have set the stage for the ongoing conflict and peace process we see today. We've journeyed through a century of tumultuous history, from the Balfour Declaration to the Intifadas. We've seen the British government's promise in the Balfour Declaration, paving the way for a Jewish homeland in Palestine. We've witnessed the horrors of the Holocaust and the subsequent creation of Israel as a sanctuary for a persecuted people. We've navigated the troubled waters of the Arab-Israeli wars and the Palestinian refugee crisis that followed, a human tragedy that continues to resonate today. We've ventured into the contentious issue of Israeli settlements and the flare-ups of violence known as the intifadas. Each of these key points provides a piece of the puzzle, a facet of the complex and multifaceted history of Israel and Palestine. As we continue to witness the unfolding of this complex conflict, it's crucial to remember the historical context that brought us here.